Hi everybody. So I've recorded this video 3 times and I'm just trying to say what I need to say kindly and succinctly. I have given as much detail as I possibly can about specific content related to the end times. This is the start of Daniel's 70th week. People are starting to ask me down to the minute when the 70th week is going to start, like what time of day the seals are going to be opened and what would that be in our time zones and things like that. Guys, no, we're not going there. I have never offered that level of detail and I'm not about to start. We are in a wait and see mode. Things are going to become clearer the closer we get to time as far as the specific timing of things. There is still a lot that needs to happen, that's going to happen, even if it's this year. Even if it's this year. I am not going to start speculating when I have avoided that at all cost for so long. And so that's what you guys who are asking for this level of granularity, this level of detail, are essentially asking me to do, is start speculating wildly about what's going to happen. I'm not interested in losing credibility like these other channels are. And so I would ask you to be self-aware enough when you're asking questions to understand the position that you're putting me in when you ask me to get so detailed. The more detailed people get, the more they're going to be wrong. And so I've given you as much detail as I can, as I'm going to. We are going to have to wait and see. I would also say that the videos that people are choosing to watch, because I know that people are consuming massive amounts of my content right now and they want to know everything I've ever said about specific subjects, like Gog and Magog, for example. I've been talking about Gog and Magog for a really long time. It was the first subject matter that I wrote a book about, which was in 2016. I've been talking about Gog and Magog for a really long time. And obviously, the more we learn about these things, the more we prospect about the meaning of scripture. When you get closer to the time period, more of it's going to make sense and some of the gaps are going to be filled in. So I've never speculated about it, but the closer we get, there's more natural understanding that we have about these things. So I would caution you guys, if you're watching a video that was years old, first of all, I'm not going to know specifically what I said if you're asking me a question. And second of all, there were points in time where we're trying to figure things out and reason through it and see what does this mean. One of the things that I keep getting asked about too is the nature of the supernatural identity of Gog. Gog is a prince. The tie to Daniel is from, I would say it's a greater tie to Daniel in the Ezekiel's end times vision. But the prince language from Ezekiel 38 and 39 is also tied to Daniel. It's short for principality. Now, what that means, I don't know, because Jesus is called the Messiah, the Prince. He's the head of all principalities and powers, and all thrones and dominions were created for him and by him, and by all things, by him all things consist. That's in Colossians 1. You have Michael, the great prince, which stands for the children of thy people. You've got the prince of Persia, the prince of Grecia, the prince that shall come. Do I think the prince that shall come is a supernatural being? Nope. Might he be? Maybe. Do I think the prince of Persia and the prince of Grecia were angels? Maybe not necessarily. Were they principalities? Yes. Is Michael a principality angel? Yes. There's like a diversity of what these princes mean, principalities. And so you can't just say they're all angels. And so Gog is a prince and he must be an angel too. How can he die? Because super angels don't die. That's not what we learn from Daniel. Is you've got the Messiah, the prince, who's definitely not an angel. You've got Michael, the great prince, who is an angel. You've got the Revelation 6 rider described as the prince who shall come, the one who comes in the place of Christ. Is he an angel? I doubt it. We're not told that he is, so I would say he's not. The prince of Persia, the prince of Grecia may or may not be. I don't know. People have speculated both ways. I don't think that's necessarily relevant. But all of that goes to, except in the case of Jesus and Michael, all of that goes to Ephesians 6. We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. I don't know what all of that constitutes, whether that's all fallen angels or whether there's a hierarchy And there's like, I don't know what that is. Maybe other people can help you better than I can. But when we say that Gog is supernatural, that doesn't imply that he's a demon necessarily, or that he's an angel necessarily, because I don't know what other options there are. I know that the battle is supernaturally motivated. And I know that Gog is given a mortal body to die in because he's buried. But there's a reoccurrence of it at the end of Kingdom tells you that there's supernatural something involved. I don't know what that is. I just know that it is involved. So when people are asking me to get super specific about these things, I've given you all of the specificity that I can possibly give you. And anything more would be conjecture that I'm not willing to do. So does that mean that Gog is a Nephilim? Maybe. We know that they can die. Because they died in the flood, and like Goliath would have been, well, he died because he got his head chopped off, but like his brothers were Nephilim. And, all through the ages, there have been little Nephilim creatures, and, in ancient Egypt and stuff, they were painted on the walls, like the human animal hybrids and stuff. Obviously, all of those died. I don't know how, I don't know the specifics. So I think it's not that I'm getting frustrated, because I'm not. I've wanted to long help people understand this, because I've wanted to understand this. And I know if I have a desire to understand this, I know other people do. But past a certain point, I would caution people to be aware of what you're asking me to speculate about, that which I do not know, because it is not stated in the Bible. And so we can make inferences, or we can speculate. We can draw specific conclusions, but there is a certain level of detail that I am not capable of giving you. And the questions that people are asking me are along the lines of that level of detail that I'm not capable or willing to give or speculate about. Does it really matter if the seals are opened at 6 p.m. or midnight or 6 a.m.? We're not going to be here. So, does it matter? And I know that really that's a different way of asking, when's the rapture going to happen? I know that is another way of asking the unmentionable question, because I've said, don't ask me when the rapture is going to happen. So then people are saying, well, when are the seals going to be open? Which is a different way of saying the same thing. When's the rapture going to happen? Like, down to the minute, I want you to tell me when the rapture is going to happen. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. Maybe it will become more clear closer to time. To me, it's like, why can't just knowing a day be good enough? Why do we have to keep pushing it? I realize that that's just my perspective. Like, having a certain day in view is way more than enough. But people keep wanting more and more and more. And we're like, dude, my knowledge, my understanding is finite here. Like, it might be good by comparison, but it's still limited, it's still finite. And I've given you everything I can possibly give you to help you understand these things. I would say far more than other people have and or will. And yet people are still wanting more. And there's coming the point, or there has come the point, where I am unable to provide more, because what you guys are asking is beyond the realm of what the Bible says. So if I was able to tell you more, you would be able to find it out more through your own study. I'm going to guess that if you aren't finding it through your study, that's why you're asking me. Since we're reading the same Bible, I can't give you what is not there. So I would ask you guys to be slightly more self-aware in your questions, and maybe introspect a little bit and say, why do you need that level of detail? And I'm going to guess that it's like, some of it's you just want to know, and I get that, but some of it's anxiety. Like, having to plan it down to the minute, that's anxiety. That's just anxiety. And so it's something I'm not going to help with because I can't, and I don't want to. I don't want to speculate. So it's not that I want to shut people down or don't ask questions, but there comes a point where you really need to consider the motivation of your question beyond the information I have provided. And there are going to be holes that are going to be filled when the time is right. The time is not yet right, so we do not know. But when the time is right, we will know, and then you won't have to ask anymore. But the closer we get, the more information we will all have. I have given as much detail as I can. And if I see something else that happens that is worthy of sharing or fills in a hole or explains something, rest assured I will absolutely do that. But I would caution people against trying to put me in a position to have to wildly speculate, which is essentially what these questions are starting to do. We will all find out in real time. We just need to wait and see.